The air in Ash Hollow thickened like old blood, dark, sluggish, and suffocating. The once bustling town had grown corpse quiet. Children no longer played in the streets. They watched from behind curtains, their faces pale as candle wax. The adults whispered behind locked doors, praying their prayers still held meaning here. Everyone felt it now, the weight, the watching. At the far edge of town, in a house that smelled faintly of smoke and rot, Laura Graves sat motionless in her dim living room. The only light came from her flickering laptop, casting shadows that slithered on the walls like dark hands. Her own hands, blackened with charcoal and cracked from days without sleep, trembled as she traced another crude symbol over a faded photo of Emily. Her daughter, lost 5 years ago, but still so close Laura could almost hear her giggle echoing through the house. "One more," Laura whispered, voice cracked and raw like old paper. "Just one more, baby. Then you come back to me." But deep inside, something colder than grief gnawed at her. Something ancient, patient, and smiling. Outside, the search parties called for little Mia Walters, the latest child to vanish without a trace. Flashlights bobbed through Black Hollow woods like fireflies, but none dared get close to the old willow that loomed at the center of the grove. Not after what happened to Jonas. His body found hanging, a silent and terrifying smile carved on his pale face, with his eyes missing. Yet beneath the earth, the roots writhed, hungry. It was Deputy Frank Holloway, Laura's old partner and once her closest friend, who finally shattered the heavy silence. He stormed into her house like a wounded animal, slamming the door so hard that dust and old photographs tumbled from the shelves. "Laura, God damn it!" he roared, voice hoarse. "Another kid's gone. Mia's gone. People are saying your name now, that you're feeding it." Laura didn't flinch. Her face was gaunt, eyes ringed with purple, so deep they looked bruised, but her lips curled into a bitter, broken smile. "I made a deal," she said flatly. "One more. Just one more, and I get her back." Frank's face twisted in horror, his skin paling. He took a step back, as though afraid of catching whatever sickness had rooted inside her. "You think that thing is your daughter?" Frank hissed. "Laura, that's not Emily. That's it. It wears their faces. You're trading lives for lies." Laura's voice broke, part sob, part snarl. "What would you do, Frank? Let your child rot in the dark? I won't. I can't." Frank's hands trembled on the butt of his gun. His eyes glistened. "I thought life in this town flipped on its head when Jonas confessed 20 years too late. But this is worse. You're finishing what he started back then. But this ends tonight." His words hung heavy in the stale air as he turned and slammed out the door, leaving Laura crumpled in the flickering glow of her cursed laptop. By midnight, Frank stood at the edge of Black Hollow woods, shotgun in hand and gasoline sloshing in the twin cans at his feet. The searchers had all gone home. No one else dared stay once the sun dipped below the trees. The woods stretched before him like a black mouth yawning wide. He looked up at the old willow, its trunk swollen and gnarled, its bark split open like a festering wound. The branches twitched in the windless sky, swaying like skeletal fingers against the storm clouds. Beneath it, the earth was freshly turned, a shallow grave. Mia's shoe stuck out, small, pink and mud-caked. A torn cartoon rabbit smiled weakly from the side, its eye gouged out. Frank's chest heaved. Memories crashed in. The recent confession, descriptions of the horrors from 20 years ago when Jonas and his friends first saw the girl in white. The first trade they made, thinking it would save them. "I should have stopped this then," he muttered. He struck the match. "Burn, you godless thing! Burn!" Flames roared up, clawing hungrily at the night sky. The fire hissed and popped as it kissed the cursed tree's bark. And then the tree shrieked, an unholy sound that froze the blood in Frank's veins. It wasn't the creak of wood. It was children. Dozens of children screaming all at once. Faces flickered in the smoke. Sophie, Emily, Jonas, and others whose names Frank didn't even know. Their hollow eyes watched him, mouths stretched wide in silent screams. The ground split open, the earth gaping like a wound, and from it she rose, the girl in white. Her dress stained dark, her skin bloated and gray like something long drowned. Her eyes were pits, black and endless, swallowing light. She smiled and her face cracked wide open, the skin splitting like old fruit. "Trade or stay?" she hissed. Frank fired, once, twice, but the shells passed through her like smoke. Behind him, he heard the crunch of dead leaves. Laura appeared, her face void of expression, skin smeared with bleeding charcoal symbols. Her hands hung limp at her sides. "You fool," she whispered. "Now she's hungry. You didn't trade. You refused the rule. Mother hates defiance." From the woods, whispers grew louder. A chorus now. "Stay, stay, stay." The fire blazed higher, but the roots beneath the earth churned like living things. They erupted, coiling around Frank's legs. He screamed and fired again, but it was useless. The roots were thick as a man's arm, wet and cold. They dragged him down. "Damn you, Laura!" Frank roared as the soil swallowed his waist. "Damn this whole cursed town!" He screamed until his mouth filled with dirt. His last sight was the girl in white grinning wide, her tongue black and writhing like a nest of worms. Laura stood motionless as her old partner vanished beneath the soil. And then silence. The girl in white turned to her, smiling wider. "One more," she cooed. "You kept your word." For a brief shining moment, Laura's heart lifted. Her vision blurred, and in its place she saw Emily, her real Emily, standing in the clearing. Her little girl, hair tangled, but eyes soft and wet with tears. "Mommy," Emily whispered, voice trembling. "Mommy, I'm cold." Laura stumbled forward, sobbing, her hands shaking. "Emily, baby, I did it. I brought you back." But as her fingers brushed the girl's cheek, the skin shifted, sloughing off like wet paper to reveal Sophie's grinning, rotten face underneath. The eye sockets were empty, the teeth too long. The ground cracked beneath Laura's feet, and the woods howled like 100 mouths. "No more trades," the thing hissed. "Now! You stay!" Roots burst up, wrapping around Laura's arms and legs, yanking her screaming into the earth. She clawed at the soil, shrieking Emily's name until her nails ripped away. The last thing she saw before the dirt swallowed her whole was her laptop screen, still open back home, flickering as a new message appeared in crimson letters. "No more trades, mother stays." By dawn, the woods were still again. The old willow stood blackened but whole, as if it had never burned at all. The ground was smooth, no sign of graves or roots. The searchers found no trace of Frank, no sign of Laura, no sign of Mia. But at Laura's abandoned house, they found the photos. Walls covered floor to ceiling in children's faces. Each one crossed out with thick black lines. All except one, Emily Graves. Her smile circled in fresh blood. On the kitchen table, a pair of new children's shoes sat neatly side by side, pink with faded cartoon rabbits. Mud still clung to the soles. Weeks passed and Ash Hollow pretended life went on. The church bells rang again. Parents held their children tighter, but the children knew better. They whispered in dark corners at school about the new girl, the one with hair always damp and a smile stretched too wide, who showed up one morning without parents or a record. She called herself Emily. She said she'd come home at last. At night, she played in the woods, where no other child dared go. Her laughter echoed through the trees, soft at first but growing sharper, more desperate. The old willow, it was blooming again, with bones, tiny, white, and glistening in the moonlight. The end, or is it?
In Ash Hollow, some roots go too deep to ever die, and some trades can never be undone.